The second thing that emotions are really good at is motivation. So usually emotions will get us to do stuff. If I'm angry at my teammate for feeding in the game, I am motivated to tell them to uninstall the game, and then I'm going to disconnect myself, right? They create motivation. If I am afraid of looking like an idiot, it will motivate me to stay at home. If I am afraid of rejection, it will motivate me to not ask someone out on a date, not ask someone to hang out, whatever. So they're powerful sources of motivation. Now, here's the big mistake that people make. The problem with emotions is that they're not analytical. They're not intelligent. They don't use the reasoning parts of our brain. They just come up with certain ideas, and that's what we're going to do. A really good example of this is if you look at adrenaline, which is not an emotion, it's a hormone, right? Released by the adrenal cortices, triggered by things like anger, fear, and anxiety, also lust, excitement. It alters our brain chemistry and causes us to think in black and white terms. So when you get angry at someone, you're not doing a sophisticated philosophical analysis. You jump to a conclusion. And so what most people experience, I don't know if this makes sense, is when you have an emotion, you feel like doing something. And then your struggle is like to do that thing or not do that thing. So then you start engaging willpower. I don't want to give into the anger. I don't want to give into the anger. I don't want to give into the anger. I got to control myself, control myself, control myself. This is the wrong thing to do. I feel angry. So anytime we have an emotion, there is usually one thing that our brain wants us to do. And then we struggle with that. Instead, the right way to process an emotion is to ask yourself this first question. Okay, what is this emotion trying to tell me? And secondly, what is this emotion trying to get me to do? Now, here's the key thing. I don't know if this makes sense. There are other things that you can do. I start to feel uncomfortable because my girlfriend is on her phone, and when I walk in, she puts it away. Okay. So what is this fear? I mean, what is this emotion? Right. So the first thing is when you feel uncomfortable to ask yourself, what is the emotion? So I'm a little bit afraid. I'm worried. I feel insecure. There are all of these emotions. And these emotions are telling me things, right? The worry is telling me, hey, pay attention, bro. And the worry is also going to think in black and white. I'm afraid she's cheating on me. So do you all see how there's a certain jump from here to here? This is not necessarily true, but it's like a clue. It's like signaling something to you. And then here's the other tricky thing is since I have these two thoughts, I don't know if those are true or not, it motivates me to act. So what am I going to do? Drop an AirTag in her purse. Boom. Gotta be sure. The bitch ain't cheating. Gotta know. Look through her phone. So this is where this is not actually emotional processing. This is just giving into your emotions. This is letting your emotions control you, right? And then we're like, oh my God, I should not do this. This is bad. So then what I'm going to do is take willpower and I'm going to suppress this. And then I'm going to take alcohol and I'm going to suppress this, right? And this is not, do y'all see, hopefully I don't have to explain this. This is not a good solution. This is terrible because she could be cheating on you, bro, right? And this is really funny. So McClue's is trying to be funny. Solution, don't date. That's funny, except it's not. Except when I have these feelings, it's going to go to my hippocampus. I know you're trying to be funny. I love you guys. This is great. And then the solution is don't date. This is actually a really great example of another point that I forgot to mention. So when we don't process our emotions, we end up like what I'm about to show y'all, which is date and don't date. We end up conflicted. So there are a lot of dudes who struggle with follow through. And let's understand what follow through actually is. It's going to blow your mind. So people are like, oh, I struggle with follow through. I'm going to listen to podcasts, bro. I'm going to get disciplined. That's not how you fix follow through. I'm going to show you all a cool trick about what follow through really is. So let's say I have this experience and I've decided to not date, okay? Because don't date means that I am moving away from rejection. I'm moving away from betrayal. So on one end, I have rejection, and on one end, I have betrayal. Okay, so this is one end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move away from these things by don't date. But then I have a problem because if I don't date, I feel lonely. I feel isolated. I feel jealous. I feel horny. And so what do I do to get away from these things? I date. Running away from those emotions. I'm tired of being lonely. I'm tired of being isolated. And then when I date, what happens? I get taken advantage of. It sucks. It hurts. There's all these dormant emotions. So now that I've been cheated on once, the next time, since I haven't processed those emotions, oh my God, I have all of this fear and anger and resentment that is piled up. And I'm on my third date with someone and they're texting someone and they laugh. And then I ask them, hey, are you dating other people? And they're like, yeah, aren't you dating other people? Like, we've been on 3 dates. Do you want to have the conversation about being exclusive? I'm happy to talk about it. But the moment that they say, yes, they're dating other people, and they're like, hey, do you want to have a conversation to talk about it? No, no, no. All this dormant emotion comes erupting out. And I'm like, fuck you. I'm out. I'm done. Y'all see that? It's like not technically a betrayal, but it sure as hell feels like a rejection. And then you've run away from that emotion. Now you're like, oh, fuck, man. Don't date ever again.
Ooh, that's quite a lot. You want to go before I
That
rant?
is, it's an interesting scenario, honestly, but I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen not in like a relationship sense, but I've seen it happen in a friendship sense. Where I have a friend who he calls me randomly, and I've told him multiple times, like, hey, I won't be able to answer your calls, man. So like, if I hang up or don't answer, you know, it is what it is. And I've done that a few times. And one of those days, he had like a really bad outburst. And he told me to go fuck myself and like all this mean shit, you know? And I was like, oh my. Someone's afraid of rejection, right? And doesn't know what to do with their feelings.
You're
right?
like, hey, I'm waiting for the bathroom to free up to go fuck myself. Thank you very much.
Dude. And I don't know why this situation reminded me of that, but it's the one example that I could think of where it's like someone who is afraid, right? And doesn't know how to necessarily deal with the situation that they're in, so they lash out. And that's kind of what I got from his story.
Yeah. It's kind of going back to like what we said in the previous episode of like the emotion, like processing the emotion, feeling the emotion, all of that. Like that's not bad. It what matters is the action that you take, like your reaction to it. You know, so like let's use the like for me, I think the best example as I've gotten older, I've dated around for quite a while now. So I've had multiple experiences. Hey. Go fuck yourself, right? But for me, that I can relate to that a little bit more, right? To me, again, the struggles with jealousy, the struggles with rejection, the struggles with over analyzing and overthinking. Ask any of my exes, and they'll tell you. They can check off on that box. And to me, again, it's like what he was saying, where one action it's suppressing, the other action is lashing out, but you're still giving in. Your actions are influenced by your emotions, and that's not good. Like something to me, like I don't agree exactly either with the notion of like don't date. That way you won't have to deal with rejection. You want to deal with pain and cheating and all that. Look, we all want that connection. We're social creatures. That's what we're craving. We want to get laid. All of that good stuff, right? So that if that's what we want, but we're stopping ourselves, or at least what's stopping us, it's that fear of rejection or getting hurt again. It's valid. Your feelings are valid, like to feel like that. But just because it happened once with one person, that doesn't mean that's gonna happen again with another person, or that you don't deserve to be happy. And a lot of the time, a lot of that self-talk that we have when those negative experiences happen is the minute that something happens, we try to analyze what went wrong And what exactly happened? If we blame the other person, we also blame ourselves. Like, oh, well, it was my fault for trusting them. It was my fault for not, paying attention to this and giving them my heart and this and this and that. Or the other way around, if we are more insecure, we're like, oh, I should have given her this. I should have been like this. And I'm not saying that in a lot of those situations, when a relationship doesn't go well, that can be true. But at the end of the day, you're not responsible for somebody else's actions. And I'm gonna tell you this from somebody who used to do that, right? I used to be, most of the time I was the cheater in a lot of my relationships. I don't say it with a badge of honor because I heard a lot of women who cared about me, a lot of women who trusted me. But we're not here to self therapy. And at the reasons that I would use, or the logic that I would use a lot of the time, was, oh, well, because she gave me the reason. Oh, well, if she didn't do this, oh, well, no, it was because of my own actions, my own insecurities, my own problems, my own issues, my own trauma, my own everything. At the end of the day, I was responsible for my actions. Nobody was responsible. Even if the other person pissed me off, no, I still made that decision. So therefore I'm responsible. I've been in relationships where there was the mutual cheating. Well, she cheated, so let me go and cheat. Instead of sitting down with the person and being like, okay, either we make this work, or we go our separate ways. No. A lot of and I feel a lot of relationships are so immature that that's how we function, especially nowadays, where everyone is out. There's such a paranoia, right? And rightfully so in many situations. But if you're trying to get into the dating world and you're actually trying to find like a serious relationship, a serious connection with somebody, you got to be careful with the mindset you also carry. Yes, you have to be cautious with who you enter a relationship with. But that's why, like, going back to like the example that he was using, going out on a date and you see, the girls on her phone and all that. One thing that I've learned as I gotten older, you got to get to know yourself. You got to get to know your own triggers. You got to go get to know your own boundaries. You got to get to know what you want and what you're looking for, right? So if you go on a date with somebody and you're okay because you're talking to other people, you nothing is serious there. Um, you're just getting to know each other. You're going out, whatever, just having fun, and you're okay with that. Cool, but you got to know that within yourself. But if you know that you're that's not what you want, you need to also know that, because then in those type of situations, you're going to have to. It's like having to make a decision in that moment, and you're already overwhelmed with all the emotions. You're in that moment where you're going to have to either say something or do something or not do something, and then just pretend like you're okay with whatever it is, but you know that you're not. So that's the first thing. And the second thing, in those type of situations, my advice to anybody who wants to take it is, you also have to have that conversation up front with the person when you start, like, if you ask somebody out on a date, just be upfront. Like, nah, hey, I don't want you to do this, this, and this, and this. Ask what they want and you tell them what you're looking for. And if you're not looking for something serious, just be like, I'm not looking for something serious, but I at least want to get to know you. Just be honest and be open. So that way these misunderstandings won't happen. Because in that type of example, have I ever gone through that? I haven't gone through that myself. Um, Typically, like, I don't go out on dates with girls, well, women, until I'm actually in a relationship with them. I've always had the logic. I'm not going to be spending money on somebody, if I'm not serious, or at least in a relationship with that person, or at least a friend. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's something I got to work on. But to me, it's all about communication. And a lot of the time, again, if it's the issue is speaking about how you're feeling or your wants are, right? We're shamed a lot of the time. Oh, well, you got to play it cool. You got to act like, aloof and pretend like you're not thirsty or whatever the fuck it is. But just because you don't show it, that doesn't mean you're not feeling it or you're not thinking it. So I think upfront with what you're feeling and what you're thinking is good to have that type of mindset when you're entering those type of situations, but also having that open conversations if you are planning to go on a date with somebody or talk to somebody, especially if you had those negative experiences. For me, I would also say, my opinion, if you have had those experiences and you haven't dealt with it, there's no better time than the present to actually deal with those problems. And until you feel that you have dealt with them enough where you're able to put yourself out there, then make that decision. Don't put pressure on yourself that, oh, because if you're putting that pressure to go out there because you're feeling lonely and you're looking for connection, that's something that you want to work with. I think a lot of our society has sold us this bullshit when it comes to relationships that we're if you're not complete, somebody else has to come. You have to find somebody else and they have to come and fill that incompleteness. And that's bullshit. If you're not incomplete, then that's not a good place to be in mentally or emotionally to go out there into the world. You're going out there to make that connection. You're not going out there to have that codependency with people. Take it from somebody who had lived for at least 15 years of his dating life. That's how I used to be. And it wasn't until I started getting out of that. I started working on myself. I started having better dates. Yeah, some of them didn't go the way that I would have wanted them, but that's also a good experience. It's also the way that you look at, and I'll make another video if you guys want, if you guys care about my advice when it comes to relationship advice. But it's also good to change the way that you view things. Again, if you feel a certain type of way, process it, but also what are you telling yourself? So if you have a negative experience with like rejection, then what are you telling yourself? Because in situations like that, let's say you go on a date and the girl, the chemistry's off or she's just not present, because that's a little disrespectful. Maybe if she's texting, I don't know, like her friend or a family member, that's one thing. But if she's texting other guys while she's on a date with you, I don't know if that's a relationship you want to continue with or at least get more serious with. That's just my opinion. So if you see that, if you know what you want and you see that red flag immediately, I would say just be like, okay, you know what? It wasn't it wasn't a bad experience. It was just a experience where I can take the knowledge now that this is not the one that that's for me, rather than to ignore that red flag, either by not saying something or continuing on and then going through with it. Because then shit happens and you come out worse. You come out confirming whatever self-talk you had before of like, oh, you see, you're never going to find the right one. You're never going to be happy. All women or all men are the same and all this other bullshit. And you're just going to continue on the same negative talk. So let's continue.
So here's what happens. Here's why follow through is really hard. Because here I am in the middle. Okay? And if I'm in the middle and I move towards don't date, then isolation arises. This negative emotion arises. So the more that I move in one direction, the more the isolation goes up. So then instead of sticking with it, because then I feel more isolated and more lonely, I'm going to move this way towards date. And the more I move in this direction, rejection, fear, betrayal arises. So now these go up. And so then I go over here. So following through doesn't work. The reason we don't follow through is because as we move in a direction, our emotional pain actually increases. So we run away from that because that's what you're supposed to do. It's not like it's common sense, right? This isn't dumb or stupid or any weakness or low willpower. If there's betrayal, rejection, and fear in a particular direction, we're going to move away from that direction. And if there's isolation and loneliness in a particular direction, we're going to move away from that direction, right? And the problem here is that we're not processing emotions. We're not managing those emotions in the right way. If you struggle with follow through, if you struggle with overcoming your programming, emotional processing is the answer. So let's talk about what emotional processing is. So remember that when we feel emotion, man feel emotion. Man no like emotion. Feeling hurt bad. no like feel bad. So we numb. And when we numb it, it piles up. And then something else happens and we pile it up. Something else happens and we pile it up. The time that I felt this the most is when I was failing out of college playing video games. I would have more shame. I was like failing one class and I was like, well, fuck it. If I'm failing one class, that's the first F. I feel ashamed. I feel ashamed. How did I manage that shame? By playing more video games, by skipping more classes. So it piles up and piles up and piles up. So now the question is, how do we prevent it from piling up? And the answer is emotional processing. Emotional processing is what allows us to experience emotions without letting them pile up. And remember that as these things pile up, this is creating learning. This is creating programming, right? And this learning and programming is then going to be what we have to overcome with willpower later. So this is the cycle. How do you make your life easy? So my goal as a psychiatrist for myself and for my patients is not to make them happy, not to make them successful, not to do any of that stuff. It's to make their life easy. It's to make their life free. It is to make their life unburdened. It doesn't have to be so hard. That's why I learn things the way that I learn them. I want to understand all of these mechanisms so that I can know how it works. And if I can teach people how it works, their life can be easy because you know what's going on under the hood. So how do you do that? Emotional processing. Step number 1, what is emotion trying to tell you? And acknowledge that. So notice what's happening. You're paying attention to the emotion. You're leaning into it. You're engaging with it. You are not numbing it. You're not adding it over here. You're actually telling it, hey, come out. Come out of there. Let it out. Like, let's see. Like, what is it, boy? What is it, Timmy? Is Timmy stuck in the well? What is it, Lassie? Is Timmy stuck in the well? What is it, Lassie? Why are you barking? Talk to it. Let it out. What is this emotion telling me? What is it that I'm afraid of? What is this that I'm feeling? I feel uncomfortable. Why do I feel uncomfortable? What is this discomfort telling me? Really important. Very vital information that your brain, millions of years of evolution, have evolved to give you this sixth sense. Do you guys understand how awesome emotions are? They're like fucking being psychic. It is that you can make all of these cognitive, analytical calculations, or you can have some psychic part of your brain that's like, hey, bro, these people are not to be trusted. And they're like, yeah, hey, you should come. We have this awesome thing. You can come to our hotel for a weekend. We'll pay for your flights. We'll pay, and we've got this. All you have to do is sit through this one presentation. Everything is going to be free. It's going to be comped. We're going to give you the best room. It's all free. All you got to do is sit through these presentations while you're here. And it's like, wow, analytically, that's amazing. Oh my God, we get a free stay at this luxury hotel? What is it telling you? And then you have this psychic in this back part of your brain, in the amygdala, deep in your brain, that's like, no, do not trust Alok. There is a trick, right? So listen to it.
Okay, so real quick, I think he said something that's important because everything else I think we've kind of covered already throughout the videos. I think it's good to tell yourself that. If you have a negative experience with somebody, it's good to tell yourself that because it's the truth. There are some people that are not to be trusted, not with your heart, not with your feelings, not with your trust, not with your money. I'm hoping not, but whatever. Whatever you value. There are some people that are just not worthy of trust. There's people out there who will not take advantage of you. There's people that won't appreciate you. There's people that won't value you as a human being. There's people who will treat you like shit. There's people who will break your trust. There are people who, will use you, whatever. So I think it is important, like what he was saying, that instinct that we have to be cautious in those type of situations where if you see those red flags, like what I was saying earlier, to be like, yeah, especially if you've been down that road, just if you see 1, 2, 3, that's it. A lot of the time we ignore those red flags, and that gut feeling is telling us something that we need to listen to also. And trust me, again, it took years for me to finally apply it. But I used to get into relationships or even be in friendships or in situations where I saw a red flag at the red flag at the red flag, but instead I would continue. And I would go up to like thousands of red flags, and yet I would still stay in those situations or relationships. I think also, lastly, the same way that we say, certain relationships, certain people aren't trustworthy, the self-talk is also the same thing. What we're either absorbing when we listen to other people that we listen to, about how to cope with certain things or what to do with our emotions or whatever, or what we tell ourselves also, because a lot, most of the stuff that we repeat, it's just that we were repeating. We learned it from somebody else. It's not like we literally came up with it by ourselves. And we got to be careful with that too. What are we letting in? If we're careful with the people that we let into our home, I'm hoping, and we're careful with the people that we're letting into our lives as well, we also have to be careful with the self-talk, the ideas, and the actions that we're also letting in. Because for me, like I said, for years, the negative self-talk about myself, or the negative self-talk about other people, and that led me to deal with depression, isolation, anxiety, relive trauma again and again and again, push people away that really cared about me, hurt people that really cared about me, break their own trust, and worst of all, repeat the same cycle that had been done to me to other people. So you got to be careful. Have some grace if you have gone through that, whether it's been done to you or you've done it to yourself, but you got into a point where you're waking up from it. Have grace with yourself, because we're all humans. We're all learning, we're all growing, we're all just trying to figure shit out.
Second thing, what is it motivating me to do? Okay. And as you ask yourself, it's not, and this is the mistake that a lot of people make, is that they try to just overcome or give into the emotion. So I'll give you all an example. So I had a patient who had a relationship that was on the verge of a breakup. I mentioned a little bit earlier. So they came to me and they're like, Dr. K, I don't know if I should break up with her or not, right? It's like, I don't know if I should give in or do I not give in? Do I give in or do I not give in? It's like binary. It's black or white thinking. That's what adrenaline does. That's what the amygdala does. But the whole point is that life is shades of gray. There are all kinds of options. It's not do or don't do. There's all kinds of stuff in the middle. So they end up breaking up with their girlfriend. Girlfriend then texts them about 2 weeks later, and they're like, hey, I've really been thinking a lot about it. I'm so sorry for that I hurt you, and you deserve better, and I've really grown, and like, give us another chance. We had so much, you had so many great times, and there's like, a lot of potential for our relationship. And then this poor guy is conflicted, right? We talked about this. So now there's all kinds of emotions. There's like love, and then there's anger. There's like betrayal, and then there's like security. So this poor fucking guy is like ping-ponging between these two. Should I do it? Should I not do it? Should I do it? Should I not do it? Right? So we're like, okay, what are all of these emotions telling you? What is the love telling you? What is the security telling you? Love is telling me that hey, there was something really good here. The anger is telling me like, hey, this person has some really toxic habits. The feeling of betrayal is telling me that this person doesn't really care about me. It's giving me all of this information. So they decided to give it another shot. Okay? But instead of just saying yes, we sit down and we work through all of these emotions and we figure out what this person is feeling. And it wasn't just taking them back. It was like a high EQ version of taking them back. It was articulating a lot of stuff. It was like, look, the stuff that you did was very hurtful to me. I value our relationship for reasons A, B, and C. Here are the things that I do not like. And I'm happy to give this a shot. But if these things that my negative emotions are worried about, if these things don't get better, because it's giving you a lot of information, right? If these things don't get better, then I'm not interested. We're not going back to where we were. We're actually starting over. This is a new relationship. There's been a certain amount of hurt and betrayal. There's a lot of love. There's a lot of good stuff going on here, but there has been hurt or betrayal. So I'm willing to give this another shot. 2 weeks go by. So first week, she's on her best behavior. He comes in next week and I'm like, how's the relationship going? And he's like, he's being super nice. And then I ask him, how does that make you feel? And he's like, it doesn't make me feel good. And this is where, I don't know if this makes sense, but if you all have taken back an ex and you really shouldn't have, and they're being extra nice, there's this voice in the back of your head that's like, hey, this feels fake. This feels forced. But now you've said yes. not a conditional yes, not a yes, but. And so then now you're conflicted between guilt because you said yes and you want to give it a shot, and this warning sign that you have in the back of your head, and you're ping-ponging again. Not emotional processing. So we're listening to that voice. Week 2 rolls around. She starts engaging in some of these bad behaviors that are a little bit disrespectful. So he just fucking breaks it off. There's no conflict. He feels assured of himself. And he's like, hey, you know what? I don't think this is a good idea. She gets really upset, and he is fucking steel, son. She starts to cry. He actually doesn't even feel guilty because he felt that guilt. He worked through it. He starts to feel the guilt a little bit, and he's like, what is it? Oh, this is a dormant guilt. This is a guilt from the past. This relationship is not good for me. And then he has follow through because he's worked with his emotions. They're no longer enemies. Even the anxiety when it comes up is not a problem. He's not trying to numb it. He's like, oh, the anxiety is telling me something. So the fucking coolest thing is when you do this, the hippocampus, the learning. So he is absolutely learning from this experience. But instead of that learning being automatic, instead of that learning being subconscious, instead of that learning being the result of the amygdala, which he is numbing, but is just over here doing its own thing, creating whatever learnings it wants, inducing some degree of PTSD that is going to cause this guy problems down in the future. He has worked with these emotions. He has felt these things, and he is learning self-respect. He is learning how to trust his emotions. He's learning how to say, you know what? And it's not even, she's like, oh, please take me back. Give me another chance. And he's like, we had something great. And he's like, you know what? I don't want to. I'm not interested in a relationship with you. I'm not saying you're good. I'm not saying you're bad. Look, you're going through your shit. I'm going through my shit. I'm just not interested in a relationship with you. Those are the words that he used. And that's why I remember the story. I was like, fuck yeah, man. Right? So he's centered. The follow through becomes easy. It's just, I'm not interested in a relationship with you. It's not that you're good. It's not that you're bad. And she's like, oh my God, give us another chance. And it's like, no, I mean, there's no guilt there. So all of those stored emotions have been worked through. They've been acknowledged, they've been accepted, and honestly, it's not that simple. It's a little more complicated. But the real crux of it is if you numb it, it goes dormant, it piles up, and it programs you. So bringing it to the surface, engaging it, asking it what it's trying to tell you, understanding what it's trying to motivate you to do, and it's not about listening to that solution, right? So let emotions clue you into the problem. And once you understand what the problem is, use the higher order functions of our brain, our cerebral cortices, our analytical reasoning, to come up with alternative answers to that problem. And those are the those are the solutions that you should use, right? Not the default solution, not the instinctive solution, not the emotional solution. And the cool thing is that as you acknowledge these emotions, as you make them become undormant, then these are like your dogs, right? Like, oh my God, is Timmy stuck in the well? And then as his ex starts to create all kinds of problems, she starts crying, she starts texting his friends, like he is fucking solid. Then the anger comes out, right? But then he's got a good relationship. So it's like, let the anger come. Let this dog protect me. Anger's not a bad thing. And then since he's worked through it, it doesn't go too far. And he's like, hey, this is completely out of line. So he sends a text to all of his friends. He's like, hey, thank you guys very much for, being concerned about me and stuff like this and sort of saying we had something great together. Truth is, she cheated on me, and I haven't really said that, but that's the reason that I'm not interested in a relationship with her. Then she gets pissed at him because, he said he sort of spilled the beans, and she's like, you're ruining this. And he's like, look, you know what? I'm just not interested in a relationship with you. You mentioned this crap, and you brought these people in. That's the end of it. And then he doesn't walk out of that scarred. If anything, he walks out of that more centered, more aware of what he wants, more like now he knows what he's looking for, right? So I think this is the most fundamental skill that most men need to learn. And a lot of women can benefit from more explicit emotional processing. It's just the way that we're socialized, we're taught to numb these emotions. And once we numb them, they start to run haywire in our brain and create all kinds of weird ideas and views and stuff like that. We don't need any of that. Make sense?
Okay. Timmy, so let me ask you a question. In that example of like being taking your ex back, in your experience, Has that ever been a good experience?
The one time I did it, no. Um, they cheated on me, and I saw it go down, right? And so I was like, oh damn. I thought about it for like a few weeks, and I was like, I guess we can try this again.
Mm.
And in that situation, right, I felt like nervous, I felt scared, and I was like, oh, if she does this again, and it's like I'm just putting myself through this weird, scary moment again, right?
Mm.
And I felt like I couldn't trust her, and so like that's what led me to kind of be like, all right, I think I'm just ready to break up because like I don't feel like I can trust you. I don't feel like I can trust myself, and I think that we're better off like not together, you know.
Mm.
And I had to do this as like it was like what, back in like high school, I think, when this happened.
Mm.
So it was really weird to like go through and then have to like figure out my own stuff, like as far as like emotions went. I remember I stopped dating for like a while, like after that. And what about you? Could you like, did you go through these things?
Yes, and it sucks. It sucks that you went through that. For me, yeah, I've been on both ends. As I said at the beginning, for me, I want to start first with my experience because I'm not saying to justify it, but I'm just to kind of give a little bit of context. Like when I began to cheat, it was because the relationships prior to that, I had been cheated on, I had been manipulated and lied to. So I went into those relationships and just continued on a cycle where I went in with the mindset of I'm going to get cheated on if I don't control, manipulate, if I don't, know what exactly they're doing, if I don't question everything that they're doing, just all this toxic fucking mindset. And it was because I never dealt with that hurt for years. Like I think almost 2 decades. I went from one relationship to another. Literally, I couldn't go more than like a day of being single because I couldn't deal with myself. I couldn't be with myself. Like it, people would tell me, "Oh, well, you're a player because you're always with girls and this and this and that." And sometimes, again, the cheating. I would go from with multiple relationships at a time sometimes, and I would always like when people would say, "Oh, you're a player," yeah, because I'm playing myself. I'm not just playing them. I'm playing myself. I'm not happy. It's just in that moment, you get that gratification when you're able to like run away from whatever you're feeling in that moment. That lead again, I would think I would look over analyze the situation and immediately, oh well, see, she's cheating. Oh well, she might be cheating, and that's all it would take, and then that would, in my mind, justify me going and doing something stupid and hurting this person, not even like asking them, not even talking to them, not thinking about it twice because I was already, I had already made up my mind, and I would go and I would, cheat, and I would feel bad afterwards. And I would tell them, if they would find out or if I would tell them or whatever, oh, I'm sorry, I'm gonna try again. A lot of especially when I was younger, I would gaslight them and, oh, well, it was because you did this and because you did this and this and this and this, you know. And as I got older, the obviously the excuses changed, and every relationship situation was also different too. So, but lo and behold, I would say, take me back and, we're going to try this again and things are going to get better. But it wouldn't because I wasn't dealing with the issue that I was, that would cause me to go and cheat. It was what I was blaming externally. Oh, well, it was, you did this. No, it was what I was going through, what I was feeling, what I was thinking that led me. And it's, from like a outer perspective, it's a selfish thing to do. Yes. But if you don't address it and deal with it, you're going to always think that it's the solution, the fix is it's on the exterior when it's inside. So to me, again, I would, things are gonna be different. Again, the minute that something will go wrong, sometimes I will wait it out. But it will get to a point where I'm like, okay, too many, things are looking suspicious. And sometimes it might have. Sometimes it was just all in my mind. It was my own fucking paranoia. And then I will go and cheat. Or sometimes it will be, oh, the last time I cheated, this is confirmation that I was right. So let me cheat on them harder this time and hurt them. And I would. And then it wasn't until years later I would like look at some of these situations. And some of it, I don't know whether they did or not. Some of them, I would say most of them, I would say I just, the mindset and the state of mind and my emotional state where I was, it was all in my head. But in that moment, it felt real. In that moment, it was justified. In that moment, I was right. And then let's flip it on the other side. When I would get, cheated on or something wouldn't go right, I would say most of the time, if you don't fix the issue, if both sides don't take accountability of what they're responsible for, and only one side is taking the blame, and then the other side is just okay, I'm gonna, blah 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 blah. Yeah, that would never go well for me either, and immediately things will go bad. And like what he was saying, you have that distrust, especially at the beginning. If they're way if they're not, if they weren't normally that kind or that affectionate or whatever, and now out of nowhere, they are, and maybe they're trying to be different. It comes off as not authentic, and you start questioning it. So to me, yeah, in those moments where things would go bad, sometimes it wasn't even the cheating. Sometimes it was just the distrust, the argument, the distance, whatever it was, but it wouldn't change, or the manipulation, or whatever. It wouldn't change. It would be the honeymoon and then go right back to it. So you got to be careful. Again, if you don't work on yourself and the other person isn't willing to work on themselves, and you're both not willing to sit down, if you didn't get it right the first time, maybe you could get it right the second, third, fourth time. But if you're just going to continue on, then don't expect, different results. And something, the last thing that I want to touch on, what he said, and he said this earlier, um, about how, like, with the things that we learn, right? We learn it, we memorize it, and a lot of the time we feel with our emotions that we're always in a battle, and we feel like we might, we got through, we were able to suppress or escape or whatever, like one, so we're able to survive one battle, but we're slowly losing the war. I like the ideology, or that description, because for let's think of our nature, right? Back in our ancestors long time ago, when they were out there in caves and out there hunting and gathering and coming across like large animals and all that, or in tribes and fighting other tribes and all that, you didn't just go out there like a fucking dumbass and got yourself killed. You wouldn't just go out there just without any idea, any tools, any weapons, any backup to face a large animal, or face a whole army of a different tribe or whatever. You had to go out there with a certain with a certain plan. Even out of instinct, most of our instincts, it's learned behavior. Some instincts come just they come naturally to us, but most of it's learned behavior. So think of it, if you are in constant battles and you feel like you're fighting a war, because a lot of time that's how it feels, especially when you're interacting with other people or you're just dealing with your own problems, your own issues internally. Think of it that you're going into battles, you're going into war unprepared. You're going into it impulsively. You don't have a good plan, or at least a plan that maybe you can win one battle, but is that going to help you throughout the war? And worst of all, you're going in it. The only help that you're going in there with, your only backup, it's going to be you. And if you're your worst enemy, then how are you going to trust your so-called backup, your so-called army? You're having to fight multiple battles, externally and internally. So, like what he's saying, it's very important to understand, to get to know yourself, to heal yourself. I used to say, I used to believe in a lot of like spiritual stuff and all that. Things are changing now in my life. I'm not going to get into it. We are the ones responsible for our own healing. We are the ones responsible for the changes we need to make. How we feel, we're responsible. How we act, we're responsible. Where those feelings came from, like that, whether it's trauma or whatever, that's not your fault. And responsibility and fault are two different things. Because fault, again, it comes with shame and condemnation. Responsibility, it means control. And a lot of time when we grew up, if we've grown up in environments where there was violence, there was uncertainty, there was whatever, and again, it's not even like just your home life, your school life, your relationships, isolation, whatever. If you've been from one toxic relationship to another, if that's what you grew up in, that's what you're going to that's what your instinct becomes. Like that's what your impulsiveness becomes. The way that you respond is the knowledge that you have. But that just because that knowledge, that so-called instinct, tells you that that's how you're supposed to respond, because that's how you've been responding for so long, and maybe in some occasions it actually helped you temporarily, that doesn't mean it's healthy, and that doesn't mean that it's going to help you in the long run. Not mentioning we all, as we get older and life changes, the world keeps moving, we interact with other people, situations changes, all of that changes. Our responses also need to change. How we were responding when we were younger can't be the same way how we're responding as adults. And that's what I see a lot online with a lot of these communities. That's what I see out there in the world a lot now, where we don't think. We don't want, we talk about, on one side, talks about our emotions, like feeling your emotions, and that's great. But then they don't do anything. They use it as an excuse for their actions, their negative actions, because they're driven by emotion. Then the other side, well, you don't let your emotions drive you. Great. Until it happens. And again, we seem to pick and choose which emotions we want to express. Anger, we're tough, beating our chests, being this quote unquote alpha, yelling at the top of our lungs, showing off, all this fucking exterior and superficial performance that we try to put on. Because again, that's what we were told, being successful, that's what a successful man is. That's what a confident man is. No, it ain't. It's just a mask. But internally, you feel like you ain't shit still. And the more and more performance you put on, it's because the more and more you feel that that's not you. But you're looking for validation, whether it's others' approval, others, people jealousy, other people envying you, other people respecting you, other people loving you. It's all externally, but you're not dealing with the internal part. And you think by dealing with it is either hiding it, suppressing it, or going off of it.
So, practical tips, please, on how to work out emotions. These are the two things. There is more to it, but this is the way to start. So what I was trying to do today is explain the basic concept in the first two tools, which is ask the emotion what the information is and ask it what it's motivating you to do. Now, here's the thing that confuses people. This honestly will get you 50% of the way there, maybe even more. So simply the lack of suppressing your emotions prevents them from building up, prevents them from automatically programming you. And even when we do psychotherapy, so sometimes, when we do interviews and stuff on this channel, which we've done less of, I think we'll start doing more of those again. We did one, hopefully that'll see the light of day soon. you know, you'll notice that there are moments where people have this like breakthrough, right? Where there's this upwelling of negative emotion. They'll start crying and we'll have this like moment, right? And so the cool thing is that is processing. So simply coexisting with the emotion without suppressing it engages this really cool thing where then the amygdala will go to homeostasis. It'll actually stop the emotion on its own without it programming you. So what we find for healing in something like trauma is once the emotion comes to the surface and we stop running away from it, that in and of itself will reprogram, will deprogram. That's actually sufficient. You don't have to like lay it down in a particular way. If you do it the way that I said, it'll help some, but actually just bringing it up to the surface is sufficient. So if y'all remember, I started this with this story of this patient who would come to my office and would you know basically talk about how he was sad all the time, but he would just talk about how he was sad. So he did something that was really interesting. He had this habitual way of talking about being sad. He would not feel sad and cry in the therapy room. And I did not have the expertise to figure out, okay, this is basically like a script. It's a protective script against the emotions that are underneath. And the emotions that were underneath were anger and rage. So we started talking about that. What does it feel like to be fucking disrespected by your family? He also had this toxic relationship with a woman who was divorced and had a couple of kids. And so he started dating this woman and he was just totally into this woman. And she was great and he loved her. I mean, he didn't love her, but he was infatuated with her. And part of what he liked about dating this woman, just to give you all a quick insight into this, when he was with her, he was living the life that he always wanted to live. So she made actually a fair amount of money. They would go eat at nice restaurants. They would go stay in hotels. She had 3 kids and he would hang out with their kids. He started forming a relationship with her kids in a very positive way. He always wanted kids. And so on Christmas Day, he goes to her house to drop off gifts for all 3 of her kids. It's snowing. This is in Boston. Goes to her house to drop off gifts. She opens the door. He says, "Hey, I brought gifts for your kids." She takes the gifts. One of the kids sees him and runs out and gives him a hug. And she's like excited that he's here. So this woman that he's dating gives the gifts to her daughter and says, "Can you go put them under the tree?" And when the daughter goes to put them under the tree, she says, "Thanks for coming," and closes the fucking door in his face. That's what we talk about in therapy. The anger and rage of the guy was literally left out in the cold. Drives 45 minutes to her house to drop off kids, doesn't even get invited in. And that's the way that she treated him. But man, when she was with him, it was great. And anyway, that was also where I learned that the most toxic relationships are toxic not because they're bad. The most toxic relationships are 100% perfect 50% of the time. And that's why people stay in toxic relationships, because you never know which one you're going to get. And everything that he wants is on the other side of that door. And half of the days she invites him in, and half of the days she doesn't. So the psychotherapy and the breakthrough is not about sadness, not about depression, it's all about anger, which thankfully Sigmund Freud taught us many years ago when he said, depression is anger turned against the self. Emotions, let them out. Ask yourself, what is this trying to tell me? What is it trying to get me to do?
Okay, so before Jesus, I let you wrap up. So that's the video. Jesus, what's the title of the video? Well, make sure to subscribe to that channel. The channel is called Healthy Gamer GG. And Jesus is going to give you the title.
The title is How to Actually Process Your Emotions.
So check out that video. We did the entirety for once in our YouTube career. Real good video, real good channel. Dr. K, I believe that's your name. If you ever come across this video, I want to thank you, because personally, I related to a lot of the stuff that you were saying, a lot of stuff that I have learned, both me using therapy, but also working in the field of social work. On my associate, when I was doing my associate degree, and I did some work myself. But I really appreciate it. I appreciate the work that you're putting, that you put out, because of more men that have been just forgotten, who have been hurt, need to hear these things. And they're hearing some of these points come from the wrong people, and they're being misled, and they're also being attacked. So I really appreciate it. Subscribe to his channel. Check out this video. Check out his channel. Show him some love. Jesus, your final thoughts?
I really like how he tied up the story about his client that he had, and how at the crux of everything was him, the client, feeling neglected, feeling angry, and not really knowing what to do with the, I guess, mixed signals that his ex was giving him. And I think the morality of the story is too, it's like understanding your emotions and also knowing when to step away from someone who is mistreating you.
Well, before I give my my final thoughts, I want to ask you guys to subscribe to our channel, like this video, share it with anybody who needs to hear these things. Add in the comment section respectfully. If you're a guy that has struggled with regulating your emotions, if you have had, negative experience like a lot of us have, and you have problems making connections, whether that's romantically or that's, platonically, whatever, add in the comment section. We need to be there for one another. And I hope that that's the mission of this channel, is to create a community for anybody who feels lost in this world and is trying to grow, trying to change, trying to transform, trying to heal, and trying to better their lives and help others. So my final thoughts: we have to stop being so scared of our own emotions. As men, we seem to have no problem claiming that, being alpha means not being scared of shit, but yet we're scared of our own emotions. We're born with these emotions. Like I said earlier, emotions aren't good and bad. That's a social construct. That's a label that we as humans put onto something that isn't good or bad. And I've stated this multiple times throughout the videos. It's how you feel isn't bad. And where all these feelings come from, or at least like what these triggers are, a lot of the time, most of the time, it's not your fault. Whatever happened to you, it's not your fault. If you've been done wrong, it's not your fault. If you've been hurt, it's not your fault. If you've been rejected, if you've been betrayed, if you've been hurt, abused, whatever, it's not your fault. You're entitled and you are worthy for happiness, for healing. As cheesy as that fucking sounds, life is too short for us to be running away from our feelings. And especially if you have lived a life like the one that I have, like the one that Jesus has, where we, like what he said, that Sigmund Freud said about depression, that it's violence internally. If you're tired of living like that, then stop looking externally. There's nothing wrong with looking for friends or things to distract you. But if it's to substitute the work that you need to do, the healing that you need to do internally, the only thing that it's going to do, it's going to hurt you more. So I hope this helps you guys. We need to get to know ourselves. We as men, we love to learn about the world. We love knowledge, and that's great. But we also need to get to know ourselves. The way that our mind works, our thoughts, our brain, the way that our body works, the way that our emotions work. And we need to take control of them. Not how these motherfuckers out here are telling you that you're being a bitch or a pussy and that you need to hide, suppress, shame yourself. Not by these other people telling you that you need to do all these things, these superficial things, to pretend like they're not there. It's not good to stay hurt. You deserve happiness, wherever you are. If this touches you, if you can relate to it, Because I know there's going to be people that are going to, oh, you know, all that mushy shit. But guess what? If a lot of us are still out there, if more of us, I would say, are still out there in the world, still looking for connection, for purpose, for belonging, and we've been done wrong by women, men, friends, family, strangers, we've made our own mistakes, we're living with trauma. If we're still out there and we haven't found it yet, then clearly everything that all the vices we've been turning to, all the influencers telling you that they know how to fix you, clearly isn't working. All the relationships you have entered, all the distractions you have found, all the drugs, clearly, if they haven't healed you, aren't working. So let's be there for one another, like I said earlier. Let's build this community. Let's build a movement. Let's continue to spread this message for healing. As men, also for women, but in this video we're talking about men. That's all we can do. Because guess what? Not to sound all pessimistic. Tomorrow, when you die, whether you were this or that, it won't matter to you. You can't take it either way. How do you want to live your life? Do you want to be hurting others? Do you want to continue living hurt? Or do you want to try to live your life to the fullest as possible? So that's all I had to say, guys. Take care. Stay safe. We love you. I'm Richie, here with Jesus. See it through my eyes. We'll talk to you guys soon.